Everyone, happy Wednesday. Thank you all so much for taking the time today. Really excited for the session that we're running today. Ed came to me with this idea a few weeks ago, and I was like, hey, it's very topical, it's very timely. A lot of association professionals are really trying to wrap their heads around how do we get more money? How do we drive non-dues revenue for our team? And how do we do it in this big, scary world of AI? So we've got a lot to cover today. Uh, Session is Rethinking Sponsorship for Growth, presented by
I was
CANRev
sitting there with that
Collaborative
on my phone kept
and
blowing up, and
PheedLoop.
it was these guys
And we've
doing,
got a bit of, there we
you
go.
know,
Beautiful. Thank you, Patricia. But yeah, Ed, if you wouldn't mind just moving on to the next slide. Who's going to be running this today? So you've got myself, Vice President of Revenue here at PheedLoop. Been with the company for 7 years. In that time, I have had the privilege of working with hundreds of association professionals across all aspects of how they could utilize event tech to take their events to new heights. For those in the audience who aren't familiar with PheedLoop, we're an all-in-one event management software solution built specifically for associations. Last year marked our 10th anniversary. We've been working with the Canadian Society of Association Executives for 8 of those years. ASAE came on board last year as well, and we just love serving the wonderful and incredibly special association community. So if anyone's interested in learning more about FeedLoop, our event tech, how we might be able to help with some of the items that we're going to cover today, then feel free to add me on LinkedIn, reach out over email, and I'd love to continue that conversation. But passing it off to our second incredible speaker, Ed.
Welcome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name's Ed Byers, and I'm just monitoring the letting people in as well. So hopefully you can't see me doing that. But I'm the president of CANRev Collaborative, and Mitch and I have worked together for a long time now with at FeedLoop and with CSAE and everything else. And so what we do is we do non-dues revenue sponsorship support for associations across Canada and the US. And most recently, we also run an event called Non-Dues Palooza, which is hosted in May. I see Bruce is here. He's going to be joining us, maybe some others on the call, the day before ASAE's MMC. And then we also do one in September in Mississauga in conjunction with CSAE. So those are our two sort of signature events, all focused around a collaborative approach to non-dues revenue, very sort of informal, but allows people to sort of let their hair down, so to speak, and connect with one another. Intimate group, 60, 70 people, share their ideas, learn from each other, and a really a good group of folks. So I'm just keeping tabs on this. So the next 60 minutes, we're going to try to do this together. And what I mean by that is, we've got 60 minutes. It's virtual. People might be snacking on lunch and managing phone calls and all these kinds of things. But I do want to try and make it as interactive as possible versus just sort of Mitch and I chatting at you guys for the next 60 minutes. So we're going to kind of break down the first 30 minutes. We're going to look at sort of the understanding the landscape. We're going to look at break down the sponsorship process. So we're going to talk about, what kind of assets do you have as an association? What kind of value should you put on these assets? How do you kind of go out and sell these things? And then we're going to finish it off after about 30, 40 minutes with some brainstorming and thought starters and a bit of a Q&A. And so there's a line that I like to say that we're going to do some R&D today, meaning we're going to rob and duplicate other people's ideas. So what works for one person might work really, really well for others. And so, again, all the great ideas aren't coming from me or Bruce or Mitch or anybody else on this call. So we might, what we try to do is have everybody collaborate and share, hey, this thing worked so amazing for me. It could be replicated somewhere else at somebody else's association.
Love it.
I'm just going to close that down.
And one
So
other
what's
point
happening?
is,
Yeah, go ahead, Mitch.
let's just make this as collaborative as possible. If you have a question, if you have something to add, don't wait to the end. Feel free to take yourself off mute, come on camera, join Ed and myself. But please, please, please engage. You all have knowledge and value to add to this conversation.
Thanks, Mitch. Yeah, exactly. Use the chat, and we'll do our best to sort of manage that chat as we go throughout because there might be something in there that we can talk about on one of the slides, and also we'll save some of it till the end, perhaps as well for that brainstorming session. So what's happening out there? So for those of you who might be familiar already with Naylor Association Solutions, they publish a benchmarking report every year. And for the first time in 12 years, in 2023, generating non-dues revenue was identified as the greatest challenge for associations in this 2023 report, and still remains the greatest challenge for associations. Maybe some thumbs up from people. Does that resonate with everybody? Like, is non-dues revenue sponsorship, is that a bit of a challenge for folks right now? Is that, oh, geez, we need more money out of sponsorship. We need to fund all of these things that we're doing through non-dues revenue, like our education programs. Sean, what is non-dues revenue? Okay, great question. So non-dues revenue is basically everything that is not your member dues. So if you're an association, I'll use an example. If you're the Veterinary Medical Association, your members, the veterinarians, will pay annual membership dues. Non-dues revenue is everything outside of that. So it's your event revenue, it's your sponsorship revenue, it's your professional development and education revenue, it's your advertising revenue. So it's all the things that are non-member dues. And that includes, exactly as Naylor's pointed out here, sponsorships, advertising, exhibit sales are still the most common source of non-dues revenue. And I'll add too, on the event side, as most of you here are probably event professionals, events still remain one of the biggest revenue lines for associations, from a cash flow perspective, but also from a profitability perspective. It is a huge revenue generator for a lot of associations. So the work that you do as event professionals is critical to associations' success and cash flow.
I'm working, boy. I'm working.
Oh, Leah, I'm going to mute Leah here. I'll just ask everybody to go on mute if you can. There we go. Thanks, Leah. So just to kickstart the conversation with everybody, so I'm going to go to a poll just to get this, and this is what I'm excited to do about this poll. There's only 3 questions, but I'm excited to share it with you because we have enough people on this call. We've got almost 50 people. It's almost like a mini benchmark of our own. Are we celebrating today together to say our sponsorship programs are doing really well, or are we commiserating, saying, "Oh my gosh, we're losing money"? So hold on one second. I'm just going to share my poll here. Where did it go? Oops. Here we go. Where did my poll go? There we are. Can everybody see that poll? Oh, good. Everybody's already filled it out. So who's currently running a sponsorship program? 76% of the folks here. Can you see these results? 76% of the folks here are running a sponsorship program. That's good.
Can't see
That
your
makes a
chart,
lot
by
of
the
sense.
way. Sorry to
Oh,
interrupt.
you can't? Okay. I'm
I'm
going
seeing the
to.
questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Paula. I think when I hit end poll, you'll see all the results together, but I'm afraid to hit it now. So I'll just share the result. I'm afraid to hit it because it might disappear. So who's currently running a sponsorship program? It's still 77% of the folks here. What's your sponsorship revenue doing year over year? So 33% of you here say it's increasing. 21% of you here say it's decreasing, and 46% of you are saying it's staying the same. That's pretty interesting. And it is like, we have a decent enough sample size here to understand that, almost half of the folks here are saying, hey, we're not really growing. We're not really necessarily losing our sponsorship dollars, but it's kind of status quo. And so some of the things we're going to talk about is, how do you take that program now that's sort of status quo? We get our sponsors every year. How do you get 5 new sponsors? How do you sponsor 2 new things? How do you get somebody to elevate their sponsorship amount with your association? And who uses their events to create a year-round connection or sponsorship? This is awesome. 57% of you say that you do. That's awesome to hear, because what we find with events are they're kind of a gateway to other sponsorship opportunities within your association. I'm going to hit end poll, and I'm going to see if that'll share. There we go. I think we can share the results. And Mitch, if there's some questions coming in, feel free to jump in and share, because I can't access them with the poll open. So you can see some of these results so that I've just shared with you. the most surprising to me is, and in a very positive way, is that a majority of you here are using your event as a sort of a gateway to do more with your sponsors. And I'm not so surprised on, hey, revenues sort of staying the same. Budgets are tight. We're not growing, but that's also great to hear that 30% of you are increasing. So thank you for that. Thank you for giving us a bit of a pulse on sort of who's on the call today. So this is, again, we're going to now move into some of the topics that we discussed at the beginning, but I'd like everybody to pop in the chat and we'll try and cover it as we go. But what are some of the challenges that you're experiencing with your sponsorship program? And at the end, we're going to do a bit of a brainstorm on sort of the success stories and what's working. But if you have some challenges like, hey, sponsors don't return, hey, we run out of activation ideas, or hey, the gold, silver, bronze just isn't working for us. We need to change the way we think about things. We don't have a staff person that's dedicated to this, to share some challenges, because it'll put us all a bit on the same page, and it'll allow us to sort of address some of those as we go throughout. So just to kick us off, as an association or anybody searching for sponsorship, what do you really want from your sponsorship program? More money, probably, right? We need more money for our programs. I had a client come to me once and they said, hey, we're going to run this new event and it's going to be in October and now it's August. Do you think you could maybe bring us in $50,000 of sponsorship money? And I said, you've got 2 months. Probably not. People aren't just waiting around with bags of money to give you. There's a lot of competition out there. And then I went back a step and I asked them, I said, well, why are you creating another event? Why are you doing, if there's added costs, logistics, is there an easier way to make that $50,000 that you need? Is there a way to enhance your current events or other programs and services to get to that? Can you do lead generation? Can you sell lead gen at your lead retrieval at your convention and generate another 10,000? Can you sell a sponsorship of a webinar over here for another 5,000? Are there other ways that you can make the money instead of creating a new event, event for your members? As an event professional, you go, oh my gosh, not another event. We're barely hanging on here with the events that we currently have. So more revenue is an obvious one. Enhanced event experience. What I say to associations is that this is sort of this unintended consequence of sponsorship, is that it can actually be really fun and exciting and add to your event experience. Sponsors typically have bigger budgets. They want to showcase themselves in a really great way. So you can have activations and create an experience for your attendees that's really cool. And so it's not this necessary evil of, we just need to get more money to do the thing we need to do. Integrate them into your event program. So, hey, we want to have a food truck out front. So let's help enhance our experience through our sponsors, so all the attendees have a really cool experience. One of the things we're doing with a client now is that we're actually creating these for our platinum sort of tier 1 partners. We're actually creating really cool sort of jackets for them to wear around the convention floor so that people can say, hey, how did they get that really cool jacket? I kind of want to be at that level. So it enhances that event experience, not just about the money. And then the last thing is, you as an association executive, what do you want from your sponsorship program? Well, we want to partner with brands that help elevate us. Time and time again, sponsors will say, hey, who else do you have? Who else are your sponsors? And they'll look and they'll say, oh, you've got these. It's like the cool kid club, right? It's like, oh, you've already got these other 3 sponsors. We should probably be there too. So it enhances your brand reputation. I say this to folks that don't have a sponsorship program. I'll say, sometimes it's okay in the beginning when we're starting out to take a little bit less so that you actually get the momentum of a program, so that people can see that there are industry partners that are attracted to your association. So we kind of know what we want as an association, the person seeking sponsorship. What does your sponsor want? And so these are the questions that I ask every time I'm on a sales call: is what's important to you as a sponsor? What would you like? What can we help you achieve? Is it website visits? Is it speaking time? Is it lead generation? Do you need a quote right on site? Is your boss breathing down your neck saying, we need 10 RFPs from this convention? Is it just, flying the flag and having your brand there so that all of your customers can see that you're participating in this event? What is it that you want that we can help you achieve? So you kind of know what you want as the association, as the sponsor seeker, and then you kind of know what they want. And so blending that those two things and finding that perfect marriage is awesome. It's so much fun, and it's understanding the audience that you have. So if you are, I'll pick on the veterinary association. So if you know that you've got 1,000 veterinarians or dentists or lawyers or doctors or whatever your program is, they're gathering at your conference. They're there for professional development. They're there for connections. It's such an exciting place to be because you've got this really cool, demographic that you can say, hey, here are people that want to be in front of, they want to connect with this group of people. So understanding your audience, understanding what your sponsors want, and then listening to them and saying, how do we help you achieve ROI? This is just a picture of a music festival that I thought was really clever. And it's like, Vitamin Water, they're the premier sponsor. What do you need at a music festival? You need a shower. So they've got a human car wash. So it's like, we are the water sponsor. We have a human car wash. You've been 4 days and you're stinky at a music festival. What do we need? What's the coolest thing that we can do that not only elevates our brand or showcases that we are there as a title sponsor, but also gives something that they want, maybe that's a really cool fit. So you've sort of taken stock of, this is kind of what we want. This is what our sponsors want. We've kind of figured out a bit of the marriage. We kind of know who the people are. We kind of know generally what both sides want. Then you start taking stock of your assets. And by assets, it's like, what do we have to sell? What are we doing? What is it at our conference, our webinars? But let's just specifically around our events. What do we have? What kind of space do we have? We've got exhibit spaces. Do we have premium exhibit spaces? Do we have welcome desk sponsor, registration sponsor, coat check? And this is where it can get fun, where you can actually look at others. And I'll say this time and time again, but go, look at your competitors. Everybody's got competitors. Look at others that are outside of your industry, see what they're doing, see what they're selling. So then take your list of all the things that you could possibly sell at your conference, convention, your event, whatever it is. And then that becomes sort of your baseline of your assets that you can then go out and sell. Now you say, okay, I've got this big, huge list of stuff I think I can sell. How much do we charge for this stuff? Like what will people pay for these, sponsorship activations? How much is it worth? And there is, and I know Bruce will probably have some thoughts at the end on this. There is a valuation process that you can go through that we do, where it's like cost per click and visibility and eyeballs and how many people are in the room, and to value your assets. What I'll say this is that, yes, that's important. You can do it. What we typically also benchmark on, almost I would say a little bit more importantly, is competitive analysis. What are other people charging? As my real estate agent would say, your house is only worth what somebody else will pay for it. So it's like you can value the heck out of it and say, this is worth $50,000. If there's nobody else on the other side that will pay $50,000, it doesn't really matter, right? We're in this world of competition, and there's so much of it, and value. And so especially, you'll know if you've charged the right amount, because you'll have a lineup of sponsors if you're a little light on price, and you'll have not that many sponsors if you have overcharged for it. And so one of the things that we'll do is say, and we've done this before, where, we may have charged a little bit light in the first year, and then it's an iterative process. So we add more value for the top tiers, and we bring everybody along. It's a bit of a journey, but we do bring everybody along and say, prices, it can be iterative. Because you've charged $5,000 one year doesn't mean that you can demonstrate value and charge a little bit more in the following year. So don't feel stressed if you're like, oh my God, I think we got the pricing a little bit off. You can adjust, or you'll know if it's too high. You can say, hey, we're going to give you a discount this year, being the first title sponsor or the first sponsor of this program. So now you've got, what each party wants, you've got your asset list, you've got the price that you're going to charge. Now you start to develop this prospectus, right? Your event prospectus. You go out and you've probably seen or developed a million of these. And this is where it gets a little bit fun and creative and tricky, is that there's a shift and a movement in sponsorship to get away from the gold, silver, bronze tiered level partnerships. As I mentioned earlier, it's all about, what does the sponsor want? What's in it for them? How do we demonstrate ROI for our partners? So there has been a shift away from getting super prescriptive in the benefits. I say that, but also because I've been in this sort of trap before. Remember too that you can't get super you can't get too creative with sponsors that are coming to the table with a very minimal amount. you say, hey, we're going to do all these things for you. And then the events team says, they're giving us $1,000 and now I'm out here creating all these brand new things for them. So there is a hybrid approach to this where you can say, at this amount, this is sort of what you get. But if you're going to spend $10,000 and above, we get a little bit more prescriptive. You get a bit more white glove service. You get a bit more hand holding. We can really understand and get creative on approaches and audience and these kinds of things. So please, if you take anything away from this, you should have some degree of customization for specific sponsors, because if you're not hitting it out of the park for them, they're not going to return. I have a quick story on that. I have a quick, somebody might need to go on mute there. I have a quick story on this that I had a sponsor once in my early days when I started selling sponsorship. We had the sponsor come in and they said, we want all these things. We need logo placement. We did this thing with them. And then at the end of the year, renewal time, and I just was starting out and they said, can you tell me, I want measurements. How many clicks were on our logo on the website? And I said, I did this, take a step back. And I said, wait a second. If that was your only metric, that you wanted clicks on the website, and you think people were going to click on your logo and purchase your service, we should have probably not engaged in this sponsorship, because the number of clicks on your logo on the website, that will not be a driver. You have to do all of these other things to really engage your partnership. And so I said, I think you got 150 clicks, but they were very metric focused on clicks on website. And so from that, I learned, hey, every sponsor, I have to ask what is the most important thing to them, because I might be selling them this over here, but really it's not a value. They really want clicks. So how do I get them clicks? How do I drive, if that is an opportunity where I can do that? So just shifting gears, prospect list, a lot of associations, a lot of groups, sponsorship is done on the corner of somebody's desk. It's like, I'm running the event, now I'm selling sponsorship, now I'm developing the professional development. I have no time to prospect. I have no time to know who's even interested in this. I'm kind of just waiting for the repeat sponsors to show up, and maybe we get a couple new inbound prospects that come to our event this year. So what I'll say, a challenge for everybody here is, you have your prospect list of returning sponsors. I challenge everybody here to go out and say, I'm going to do a bit of research on our competitors, and I'm going to try and find 10 new companies that I think would be a really great fit for this conference or our event, because likely you're leaving money on the table by not reaching out to others, especially some of the competitors. So if your sponsor is this law firm, there might be others out there that will also want to participate. And I put in here chasing the no. In sales specifically, chasing the no, I say to everybody, it's like, no is a good answer. Getting a no is great because you can move on. It's like the biggest thing I hate is when people say maybe, or like, let me get back to you. Because now they're in my list of people I've got to now chase. And it's month after month of, hey, it's me again, happy holidays. Oh, never heard from you. Hey, happy Valentine's Day, just checking in. Oh, hope you're enjoying the spring weather. I'm just circling back. If I have to write circling back one more time in an email, I might lose it. And so yeah.
Another item for chasing the no is you can use that as an opportunity to ask for feedback. Like, hey, tell me more. Like, why aren't you interested? Was it my messaging? Is it the timing? You can gather that feedback to then better refine your outreach and hopefully improve your conversions down the line.
Absolutely, Mitch. And I'm just scanning the list too. If there's questions, Mitch, feel free to jump in that I can't see because we're kind of moving along. But 100%, I agree. Like, yeah, we can probably just wait till the end because there are so many. Yeah, like it's a great point, Mitch. Like, how do you say, okay, well, listen, I understand it's been a year of me chasing you, and I do this sometimes in my chasing where I'm like, listen, I understand I've lost you. Like, it's okay. That's totally fine. Exactly as you say, Mitch. Tell me where we went wrong. Why isn't it a fit? And that will help me sort of move forward with new sponsors. I couldn't find a meme that said who said sponsorship is stressful. So it just says fundraising, so I've left it. But selling, it's a process, right? And so we talk about chasing that no. We talk about, hey, it's okay. What I love about sponsorship, especially in the association space, is that it has to be a good fit. I never really feel like I'm selling something. I feel like I'm just delivering value. Here's something really cool. Here's your audience. Here's a match. This is so perfect for you to be in this room or be at this event or be part of this association. It's amazing. And if you're not interested, that is totally okay. It's not like, how do we get you in this car today? You're not leaving until you get off this lot buying a car. It's sort of a different approach. It is not high pressure. It's, hey, if there's value here, we're here to support you. And I say everybody is a salesperson because, especially if you're working off the corner of a desk on sponsorship or you have a business development person, I say everybody wants to talk to the CEO, the executive director, CEO. Everybody wants some airtime with them. So don't be shy if you're the person that's in charge of sponsorship to pull in your CEO, especially for sponsorships that might have a bigger appeal. So it's like, hey, this company's been like sponsoring the breakfast for 5 years and they pay $5,000. We increase the price every year. They never balk at it. They're paying more. Maybe let's book a call with the CEO because they probably want to talk to you because to them that's a key decision maker, right? So that person has influence. They can go out and help them promote this particular brand. So don't be shy to say, hey, CEO or executive director or board chair or whoever, I got this sponsor that's really committed to us. I'd love to have a broader conversation with them and get a little bit more out of them, but also deliver more value for them. So don't be shy to pull other folks in the organization in. And also on that note, don't be shy to pull other team members in because we see it sometimes where it's like, oh, geez, Ed sold another sponsorship and now we've got to deliver on it. Oh, that's sort of like, what do they want? It's not a necessary evil. So if you can pull them in early in the journey, like the event team or the person that will actually be delivering the sponsorship, it really helps because then that person can help create that activation together versus the salesperson sort of just handing it off and saying, here you go. They want breakfast sponsorship. You deal with it now because everybody has to kind of be a salesperson because in that journey, if somebody else on the team loses them, if they're ticked off, they don't get what they paid for, that impacts your sales for next year. They're going to come back to you as a salesperson that sold them the sponsorship and say, hey, uh, we paid 50K and we didn't really get what we wanted. You promised me these things and it didn't happen. And then you're in the game of sort of, am I discounting for next year? Am I giving a refund? Refunds are no good. Nobody wants to give a refund. And so how do we manage those expectations in the journey? So now you've got your assets, you kind of know what you're charging for them. You've got your prospectus, you're out there selling. Now you've sold a bunch of sponsorship. Now it's the delivery piece. So and maybe thumbs up, who here sells and delivers who here delivers the sponsorship? Who here is the one that's sort of, as an event professional, making sure those sponsorship activations actually come to fruition? And I get, yeah, some thumbs up here. Great. And so it's imperative that, you're involved in that process in the journey. This is just an example, and I think I saw this team. I won't mention their name, but I did tell Sherry that I have put this picture in, but I think I saw somebody signed up from here, but awesome group. It's a destination. And every year they come to us and get really creative with their activations. And this year there was a trade show. This is a photo from last year, but they were hosting a big football event and they said, can we bring snack sleds with like peanuts and popcorn? And I said, we've never done that before. Sure, let's explore it. And so not only was there some sponsorship dollars attached, but it was actually a really cool engagement. The year before at our summer retreat, they did the golf cart sponsorship. So they picked people up, took them to their rooms, took them to the restaurant, and it was a way to one-on-one engage attendees, but also in a really cool way. So it was like, hey, just call up, Sherry, and she'll pick you up in your room and she'll drive you back to the restaurant or doing shuttles to the reception. It was a really cool activation that was meaningful, got their brand out there, allowed for one-on-one connections, and it was memorable, right? So
And
don't be afraid. Yeah, go ahead, Mitch.
to the point you were trying to make earlier, Ed, like these types of activations where it's not cookie cutter, where it might take a bit of time and energy to think about and put into place, but like these are the types of activations that are memorable and set your event apart from other events. Like, hey, if I went to a conference and these guys were driving me around in a golf cart, like that is something I'm going to remember out of some of the other events that I go to. So yes, those customized sponsorship deliverables, take more time and energy from your team, but overall, your sponsor is going to get more value and it's going to provide for a better event experience for your attendees.
I couldn't agree more, Mitch. It's exactly it. It's like your attendees are now going to say, that was really cool. Like I got, and even think about the stuff that partners will give away. Like people come and they want to engage with. Don't think of it as like, oh, the sponsors are here. It's no, we get the joy of bringing our sponsors together, and most sponsors get it. Like really, they do. It's not, they're not there to as a big sales pitch. They're there to engage with your members, and they're also, they're humans, and they're ready to have some fun, and they're ready to do really cool things. And so and the last point on this one is that think about sponsors that they do have when you're budgeting or selling, that they should expect to spend no less than about 15% of their budget on the actual activation itself. So for example, if you're selling them the washroom takeover, where it's all the branding in the washroom, there's still a fee on top of that, obviously, for the sponsor to say, hey, you're paying for the rights fee. You're paying for that sponsorship activation rights fee to dress up the bathrooms how you want. And then you also have to pay to actually do that. So you're paying, if you want to have a fancy thing in the bathroom with a phone number, I'm joking, then then you have to pay extra, obviously, on top of that. And so that does impact some. Another example is the notebook sponsor, the classic notebook sponsor. You sell a notebook sponsorship, and then you go, wait a second, we got $7,000 for this notebook sponsorship, but it cost us $5,000 for the books. Like we only really made $2,000 on that. So there are ways to build your sponsorship where you say, if you want the notebook sponsorship, then you have to pay for those notebooks on top of that, or the delegate bag. So we'll pay for up to $1 per bag for the basic, grocery bag. If you want to up that, then you can do that. If you want really cool items that you want to do, the lanyards. If you want to sponsor the lanyards, great. Maybe you purchase the lanyards on top of that, because you do have to factor that in. And we're not really talking about in-kind sponsorship, but that probably warrants a whole other conversation on its own. But in-kind can be tricky sometimes, because you're like, this is the value. It's $20,000 for this service. But you might not be ready to pay that anyway. So trying to find that value of saying, hey, we want to give you that $20,000 value, but recognizing that that is it is saving us money. I've had groups before where the in-kind, sometimes companies will, oh, we've got this in-kind, we'll give you. I'll give you an example at a previous organization. It was a sport organization, and this group said, oh, we'll give you 400 ballet shoes. And ballet wasn't even a sport in this event. It was like, what the hell are we going to do with 400 ballet shoes? It was like, that has zero value, but they're like, we can give you this. And you're like, well, that's nice, but I have no use for them. So understanding that metrics of in-kind versus cash is important. If it's actually budget reducing, then there's more value, obviously, to taking that sponsorship on. We're almost sort of wrapped up the me talking part, and then we're going to sort of break it into a bit of more of a conversation and Q&A, and we can look at that chat. The fulfillment reports, who does them? They're hard. Nobody ever wants to do them. Your event's wrapped up. You're an event professional, and you're going, oh my God, just get me to the next event or give me a break. I just don't want to do them. Either I'm tired, and then all of a sudden you're 3 weeks out from your event or past your event, and you go, right, well, it's too late now. Oh. So what I would say to this is that even if it's not super complicated for you to do, you should be sending them. In my mind, it acts as two things. One, it says we did what we said we would do, and B, we thank you. So it's a thank you, and it's also here. So what we do, just to make it as a real life example for you, what we do sometimes is we'll say, here's our generic stats. So we know we had 1,000 attendees. We know this is the demographic information. We had this many check-ins. We had all of these things, but then we customize maybe 2 or 3 slides per sponsor. So it's like, here's a photo of you at the event. Here's your specific lead retrieval numbers. Here's specifically the information that you told me was important to you at the beginning. And here it is in a report. So you're not redeveloping a fulfillment report from scratch every single time. You've got the baseline, and then you're just subbing in 1 or 2 slides into that report, and people appreciate it. And not only does it say, hey, thank you, it allows that person potentially to help sell the next year. So it's like, I want to give this to you so it's super easy for you to get funding next year for me. So you can take it to your boss and say, here's what they said they would do. They did it. Great value. I loved it. And it's not you, the marketing rep that's going to bat for you with no backup. Like they're going to say, we need another $10,000 this year. And then the boss says, well, was there value? Oh, yeah, sure there was. Well, show me. Mitch, it looks like you might going to say something.
Yeah, one thing I'd love to add here, Ed, is once you send over the report, assuming they had a good experience, it's you then use that as an opportunity to continue the conversation of, hey, you had a good event this year. What could we have done differently to turn that good experience into something great? You get that feedback from them, and now you just start planting the seeds for, all right, Bruce, we're going to start designing next year's activation exactly around that. You said this year was great. To make it an amazing experience, you need XYZ. Here's this new customized sponsor package. Here's what we're going to provide you next year. And you're just using that as a segue to continue that sales convo.
Absolutely. I love it. Two more slides, I think, or two or three more slides, and then we'll shift gears a little bit. I think we're right on track here. Taking the program to the next level, and I asked that question at the beginning: who else takes their events and tries to use them as a bit of a tool to upsell or to bring people on the journey of the entire sponsorship program? And I think a lot of it, I think it was about 57% said, or 33% said you do, or 57. Well, I'll go back and look, but it was a good chunk. It was a good chunk of you that said you do that. So congrats, pat yourselves on the back for doing that, because this is your primary tool to bring people on board. You already know they're interested. And I'll give you an example. You have a massive show, you have a ton of exhibitors, and you've got 5 sponsors. That exhibitor list, those are prime to upsell to your sponsorship program. They're already invested in what you're doing. They're showing up at your event. Maybe they're paying $1,000 for a booth. How do we get them to $5,000 for a sponsorship? Or how do we get them to 3,000 next year and then 5,000? We know they're good. They show up. They're great partners. They've been showing up year over year. So how do you introduce them into other things that you're doing? So often we just look and go, yeah, they're back in for a booth again. They're back in for a sponsorship. Tick the box. How do we take those and level them up? So when we talk about growth of the sponsorship program, it doesn't have to be exactly, we're going to grow our event, yes, but also how are we going to grow our total pie of sponsorship dollars? And every group that we work with, I say, yes, you have to kind of go where the sponsor wants. You can't, like, in some cases, clients will say, hey, Ed, you guys go out and sell it. Great. This is our budget for this event. This is our budget for this event. This is our sponsorship budget for this event. And I say, that's great. However, some events will overperform and some will underperform. So how we always try to look at it is say, here's our total sponsorship amount for the year. It's 300,000, it's a million, it's 5, whatever it is, because I can't say, hey, you can gently nudge and you can, should demonstrate value, but there are always some things that are, generally will sell a little bit better. So it's like, hey, if we overperform on this one by $30,000, that should take the pressure off a little bit if you're trying out a new event, or if you're if it's a brand new event, or it's not, if it's in a different location this year that might not be as appealing, or advertising as an example. Advertising in a digital magazine or digital properties might cost you nothing to deliver on. So if you can bring in $20,000 from your event website, event e-blasts, mail shots, gamification in the app, which we're going to talk about, like there might be other ways that you can do that. So where possible, try to sort of look at that total line, because you really have to follow the sponsor. What do they want? Where do they want to be? And then offering opportunities like smaller touch points leading up to your conference, like a mail out or SMS campaign, or using the PheedLoop app, or using anything around the technology piece that might give them those, might get an extra $1,000. And I didn't really think about this. I can be in the preliminary program, or I can do a mail shot out. How do I level that up? So I'm going to shift gears now, and then we'll look at the questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen in just a moment. This is just to kick us off. Here's an example of the Infusion Nurses Society, and they had their survey, their post-event survey sponsored. Prop Fuel does event surveys, and they do sort of email campaigns and everything else. And so here's just an example, just to kickstart the conversation of like, Could you have your post-event survey sponsored for $2,000? Hey, and by the way, we're going to let you include a question in that survey. So post-event survey sponsored by, and then we pepper in one or two. You can't survey people to death, but you can add one or two questions. Have you heard of Prop Fuel? Have you heard of PheedLoop? Have you heard of, what do you think? Or one or two questions that are embedded into the survey, and that costs you as an association really nothing because you're going to do a survey anyways. So it might offset some other costs. So my last slide, I think second last slide here is I want to shift gears a little bit to have a bit more of a conversation and say, like, who's doing stuff that's really cool, creative, successful. And I talked at the beginning about, R&D robbing and duplicating, because you probably have some really cool ideas that other people can steal. And then I think, Mitch, I want to lean on you a little bit, but others that are doing virtual stuff, like, are you monetizing virtual events? Are you using gamification? These are ideas that actually FeedLoop shared with me last year by using technology. So like purchasing merch through the app and upselling it. I can send Mitch a drink in the app. I'm an exhibitor. I'm going to send you a drink ticket in the app, but there's an upcharge for it for me as an exhibitor to pay that. So it goes right into their thing. VIP check-in lanes. Can you have a red carpet with champagne that a sponsor says, this is our VIP check-in lane? They can invite people. I'm just giving ideas. We're just scratching the surface. Using gamification. This is just to I want to leave this call today with everybody's sort of juices flowing, saying, oh, we could do that, or, oh, that's a great idea, or this person did this. How can we replicate that? I don't have all the answers. So just trying to generate that, oh, we could totally do this to grow our program. So I'm going to pause there. And I'm going to check out the chat here just for a second.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, Ed. And while you're taking a peek at the chat, one item I'll seed with people is we don't necessarily need to introduce a ton of new sponsor opportunities, or back to one of your previous examples, we don't have to create a new event, but we could just take an inventory of what we're already doing from a sponsorship perspective and see if there's anything that we can do to squeeze more out of it. And let's take gamification as an example. Everyone hears about gamification. Oh, you've got the digital scavenger hunt where you have the passport program around the trade show. You've got sponsored sessions. You've got points that people earn for downloading a sponsor's white paper within the app. But what else can you do around your gamification program to squeeze more money out of it? Like an idea is, if you've already got the passport program for your exhibitors, where typically attendees earn, let's say, 100 points for getting scanned by an exhibitor, what if you sell a couple of premium spots and that 100 points is now 500 points for whoever purchases it? Hypothesis there being that exhibitor is going to get a lot more foot traffic at their booth just by having that premium scavenger hunt placement. So it doesn't necessarily need to be what new ideas can we implement, but it can be taking an inventory of your existing sponsor opportunities and seeing, is there anything that we can do to squeeze more money out of that?
That's great. Thanks, Mitch. I'm just reading through here too. The first two comments I see, the challenges are running out of exhibit space, and I've got some ideas on that, and then running out of deliverables. So that's a good problem to have on the exhibit space. One of the things that we've done, and Mitch has experienced this with CSAE, but and I don't take any credit for it, but we've moved to this pod model where it's like they're 2x2. You get out from behind the desk, behind the 8-foot table, so shrinking the space to offer more, but you have to do it in a really creative way. It's not giving them less. It's a positioning statement of, hey, you're not behind the table saying, here, we're selling you something. It's we're beside a pod, we've got our branding, and it levels the playing field. So all sponsors, all exhibitors have the same footprint. And I can, if Mitch cares to share, but it worked really well this year because everybody's like, oh, thank God, I don't have to schlep all my stuff. We're all kind of in the same boat. And it worked extremely well, but offering different opportunities like smaller spaces for a little bit less, premium spaces for a little bit more. There is like, yeah,
what that also encourages is, hey, I don't have to schlep my booth across the country.
Hmm.
I don't have to pay those shipping fees. Now I've actually got some more money that I can put back into the event. So I'm going to do an even cooler activation at my booth, or maybe I'm going to take a few $1,000s and host a curated kind of after hours networking event. So there are some benefits to that approach, Ed. It's all about the framing.
It's all about the framing. And I think somebody wrote here running out of deliverables. And when I started out with sponsorship, there's a line that I've heard that I've quoted all the time, actually from Chris Bayless. He said, "Oh, you never run out of sponsorship." And I loved it because it's like, if you run out of ideas, we can create new ones. And so I think I totally hear you, because you also have to manage that with, um, the actual ability to deliver on that stuff. So, and I've been in this situation before where all the stuff that we have is sold out. And I say, okay, what else can we do to create some value there? And I'm seeing other things like dedicated person. That's a challenge of everybody, finding the support. Um, Sponsors asking for deliverables that are out of, touch or out of realm. That also, when we look at that asset list, take stock of what can you deliver for them. And then you can only get as creative as you can with your members as well. Um, any other questions here that Mitch, you wanted to jump in on? I'm just reading.
One a question that came consistently at the beginning was just how do you stand out of the crowd? Like in today's world, all of these companies, all of these potential sponsors, right now, a lot of them have lower marketing budgets to work with. And it seems that you've got increased competition, not only amongst what other events they could sponsor or exhibit at, but as Bruce mentioned, like, hey, if I'm just worried about brand and logo visibility, it's going to be a lot more affordable for me to just spin up a Google Ads campaign and pump money into that. So, Ed, do you have any ideas on like how to make your bid more competitive and how can you stand out from the crowd amongst these decreased marketing budgets?
Yeah, I think it's all, and I think Bruce will agree too. Feel free to jump in anytime, Bruce. But I think it's demonstrating value. Like, it really is. It's like, how do you, and doing a bit of competitive research, like what are others doing out there? Like, how do you, if I'm comparing apples and oranges in a way, if I'm saying we're the association of whatever industry, you can spend money on digital ads, but uh, things are cyclical. Things are coming back, especially post COVID. People want that relationship. They want that handshake. We as associations have a really unique, cool opportunity that a Google ad or an ad campaign cannot do. We're connecting people. People now more than ever are inundated with advertisements that they want to go back to that trusted, like, hey, Mitch, who did you use for that? Like, I see it in my business, and I think that's true for a lot of people, is like, I just want someone to tell me kind of where to go, a trusted referral, versus like I'm getting hit with all kinds of advertisements. I'm clicking on an Instagram ad and now I'm way down the rabbit hole of why the hell did I need these socks, because I didn't even want them anyway. I'm not even going to buy them. But I think there's that demonstrating value and demonstrating why you as the association are so much different than just running an ad campaign. Bruce, I saw you
Bruce,
come off mute.
I was just going to add on
Go
that. So
jump in.
I definitely agree. And there is a difference. However, if the association doesn't position itself as different,
Yeah.
if all the benefits are logo visibility, recognition, shout out from the podium for 2 days at the conference, then companies are going to say, wow, that's 2 days. There's 365 days in the year. I can run that Google campaign, as Mitch said, throughout the year. So, but I definitely agree. Companies would much prefer to work with the association and to align with that brand. But that's where the association needs to provide more than just logo visibility recognition. And throughout the year, and it's definitely not an either or. And there's been a lot of conversation in the chat about, other than the event, that I think what can work best for companies and the association is both. So what if we want to position your company as, for women in leadership, and we do a webinar in Q1 and we do a white paper in Q2, and Q3 is the conference and you can do a session at the conference, and Q4 is something else. Your company will be known year long for the Women in Leadership Initiative at our association. So then companies won't say, well, that's just the conference. That's just the booth. No, it's not just the booth, because you can hand out that white paper we did in Q2 at your booth and remind people about the activity that you're doing in Q4. Then it becomes part of a year-long package. And I consistently find companies will pay more for packages than pieces. And instead of selling all those different things a la carte, package them together for a small number of top tier companies. As you said earlier, Ed, you're not going to spend a ton of time for the company that's giving you $1,000, but move it up to 10, 15, 20, big association, $50,000, and really do that hand holding and adding value for the companies as well as the members.
What I really
Oh,
like about that idea, Bruce, is you're effectively getting the sponsor to do some of your work for you. Like you
Hmm.
need to produce content, you need to engage your members throughout the year outside of this event. So if you can design this in a manner where, hey, like they're hosting that webinar, they are producing that white paper,
totally.
that takes work off of your plate and frees up your time to focus on creating more of those sponsor relationships or whatever it is you need to do.
Right. So it's a good point, Mitch. So really, instead of kind of the conversation earlier, what else can we offer? What else can we put a logo on? Start with members. What does the latest member survey and the member intelligence say? Oh, we really need a program on women in leadership. We really need a program on mentoring. We really need a program for our rural members. Then do the research and call a company instead of saying, hey, we're selling gold, silver, bronze. Call me back right away to say, we've identified that we really need a program for our rural members. And we saw that on your company's website, you do a lot of work in rural areas. Can we talk?
Yeah.
And those are the calls that get returned. And then you start putting that package together. But if nothing else, that's a huge differentiator because most of the other associations are calling saying, we're selling gold, silver, bronze. Call me back right away and we can get you in.
Totally. On a slightly shifted gears, Bruce, you and I have talked about this before, but it's like back to sort of the prospecting, but it just popped in my head. And we do it with our clients, and I know you do it as well, Bruce, but it's when you're looking for new leads, utilize the board and the committees and all that stuff to say, hey, I've done this with groups where I say, can I talk to one of your members? Who is selling your members? Like who's cold calling your members? Those are the people you say, hey, you want one of our members? Well, I've got 500 of our members in the same room. And I know, Bruce, you use the example of like, go to the board and say, who are you purchasing from? Because
Yep.
those are also really great leads. But use the membership to say who's trying to sell your members because we've got a lot more of them. And I noticed two things in the chat. Somebody asked the checkbox in a prospectus versus listing. I think it's just more of a visual appeal. I think it depends on what you're trying to sell. I mean, generally speaking, if you're in that prescriptive model for those smaller amounts, a checkbox is fine. And I think listing it out at those bigger ones maybe. But I think I'll say that with the caveat that people don't read. Like it's like a resume. People are gonna spend about 30 seconds on that package and go, all right, give me it in as quick as possible. So if it's just a teaser, say, sponsorship starting at XYZ, whatever that is, but don't overwhelm them. And sometimes it's hard not to because you're like, I want to share everything with them. My prospectus is 32 pages because they need to know all of these things. And you're like, let the 32 pager be the third thing that you talk about. Like, talk to them about what's of interest to them first, and then you can take that 32 pager and bring it down to one page for them and go, after our conversation I realized these two things here's the big package, but here's the two things that I think would be the most valuable for you. And then the last thing in the chat that I saw, Kimberly and Shelby, happy to connect with you after on fulfillment examples or whatever you need. But yeah, I'm just looking if there's any other chats. And I know we've
Just
only got,
to
I'd like to, yeah, go ahead.
Just to add on that point, because the comments from Kimberly and Shelby were great, asking for examples of what data to include in fulfillment reports. Like we can do more of these webinars. We can create some articles and best practices. So if there are any other topics that people would like some information on, be it how to create a good fulfillment report or
Yeah.
whatever else you need, put it in the chat. Ed and I will review that. We'll create some content. Doesn't necessarily have to be another webinar. We can create some articles or just downloadable assets, but anything and everything in the chat, please.
Thanks, Mitch. Absolutely. Pop it in there because we'll have the recording and we will share out the recording. The last thing I wanted to share to give everybody 2 minutes before their next call. This is a bit of a plug, but anybody that's on the call today, we've got Non-Palooza coming up in Arlington, and I know Mitch and Bruce will be there.
Yep.
It's the day before ASAE's MMC. If you want to scan this code, you can get 50% off, or the one in the fall, and use partner 50 as your code. It gives you 50% off. No stress at all. I just wanted, if everybody here is very interested in this topic, so would be delighted to have anybody join real time in person at either one of our events. And we're almost sold out for Arlington. And we just launched the Mississauga registration last week. So I'll give it 10 more seconds up there so people can scan if they want. That's all. And then my email's there. And I know you've got Mitch's email, and anybody else that wants to share their email in the chat, Bruce, or anybody else that's in the chat, throw it in there. Again, this is a community of like-minded folks. I joke that I tell my parents I do sell association sponsorship, and they still have no idea what I do. They're like, "Oh, can't your friend get you a full-time job?" And so it is a very unique group of people, and so it's very nice to get everybody together to have these conversations, because it is quite unique and it's quite amazing. And so it's a pretty eclectic, pretty cool group. So oh, the barcode didn't work. I'll just pop the we'll use the email in the perfect. Any last minute questions? I know we got 3 minutes left. Give everybody a break before their next call. Questions, comments? Thank you everybody for joining and listening to us, and hopefully there was some good insights there. And thank you all for being so willing to share. And have a wonderful afternoon. It's nice and sunny here, and enjoy. Mitch,
Thanks,
anything else?
everyone.